Good evening, and it's a real pleasure again to be with you this evening. Hope you are doing well, and for those watching the replay, I hope you are doing great as well. My name is Pauline Limen. I'm the founder of Star Richards Community Initiative. It's a Manchester-based charity with a mission to raise aspirations for young Black children and break the cycle of Black people underachievement in education. So, I'm really glad to have you join me today. Thank you for joining us today. I was just trying to read a message that came up, and that is why I paused for a bit. Okay, Facebook keeps changing things, and sometimes messages pop up, and I was wondering what it was. So sorry about that. So my passion really is to help parents raise high-achieving children. I'm an academic life coach, a parent mentor, an author, and a speaker. And I believe that every child has got the potential to do really well in school, and that is why I'm so passionate to share this message so parents can support their children to achieve their potential in school and in life. I believe every child is gifted, is talented, has got abilities, but just need to be supported to get them to mature and to show up, for us to start to see the evidence. And that is why I'm passionate about what I do. So today we're going to be talking about something very crucial, which we can, start to do during the holidays with our children. I'm going to be sharing with us some tips that you can use at home to help your child develop a love for reading. Now, children do not just develop a love for reading. We can't just take it for granted. It's not a given. Parents need to support them to actually develop a love for reading. Now, why read? Why reading? Reading is such an important skill for children to develop. Now, in my time as working as a teacher in secondary school, one of the biggest loopholes or gaps is the poor reading skills, poor comprehension skills, and that is manifested by children not being able to read text and understand, and it extends into their exams and affects the outcomes, because if a child picks up an exam question and cannot understand the wording of the sentences or even the text that is within the exam question, then they will not be able to answer the question correctly. Sometimes you see children answering a question and you wonder, did you make up your own question? Are you answering the question that is given? So reading is a very, very useful skill. Someone says readers are leaders. And also reading is the most important predictor. It's the most important predictor of a child's future academic success. A child who loves to read, or children who love to read, are more likely to do well in school. Okay, reading improves a child IQ. It helps enrich a child's vocabulary, and it enriches their grammatical construction. So the quality of the English they speak is a lot richer when they actually read. So we're going to be sharing some tips. So parents, please ensure that if you have children that are not interested in reading yet, that you aim to actually give them a head start. We've got a few more weeks, or 1 week and a few more days before it's back to school. There is nothing impossible. We just must try. So the very first tip I'm going to share is you need to be reading yourself as a parent. Now, we are role models for our children, and the things our children see us do, they want to do as well. The things they see us do, they see as important. So if you understand that reading is important, then you need to be reading as well, for your child to see that mommy is reading, dad is reading, and so it is important, and then it's important for me to read too. So that is the first tip I'm going to share. Number 2, it's important to talk about books with excitement. Okay, when you read a book, talk about what you've learned from it. Just share the story with your child with excitement. Talk about how reading books has helped you improve. I talk about that a lot with my children, and also I talk about that here, that I am learning constantly. I'm continuously learning. So talk about the things you read in a book with excitement. Show them how it's helped you, and they will see that reading is really valuable. So that is the second one. The third point is to get children started. It's important to set a time daily for children to read. So you don't just expect children to want to read, okay? If you're just starting, your child will definitely not want to do it. So it's important to set a time daily where your child will be reading, or you could actually even set a time daily, especially if you have older children who may show some resistance or power struggles there. It might be even useful. Thanks, Mira, for joining us. Thank you. It might be useful to actually set a time for the whole family to read. It's really, really important. Children need to be reading for up to 20 to 30 minutes a day. For younger children, for toddlers, it doesn't need to be as extensive. 5 minutes is fine. If you're struggling with a child who really will not want to read, I will suggest start with 5 minutes reading and then move on to 10 minutes and keep encouraging them and say, well done. If you do for a bit more, we will, give them incentives and that kind of thing. But it is important. And as they start to read, in fact, kids who love to read can spend hours on end. They can pick up a book and read through till the end. So, but at least we need to start somewhere. Next, and number 4, encourage reading in a distraction-free environment. Now, the reason why some children struggle to read, or people just struggle to read, is because while they're reading, there's an interesting movie or something going on TV, or people are conversing over the phone, or people are just doing things that distract the child. If you want a child who is already struggling to read to actually love to read or to desire to want to read, it's important that that time is set and that the environment is really quiet and distraction free to help with concentration and focus. Number 5, again, if you've got a child who is struggling with reading, it might help if you read with your child. Give them a cuddle, sit down on the sofa, you could have some hot chocolate or something, just cuddle, just make it a special one-to-one bonding time with mommy or with daddy and read with them. You might even want to, what I've done sometimes with my children is, if it's a long text, because as they start to move from year 1 to year 2, the books become bigger and they're expected to read, so many pages a day. For example, you could actually read one paragraph and let them read the second paragraph, and that way it becomes interesting. So you're reading together with them and that motivates them. 6, it's important to get them to start to read by choosing a book that they find interesting. So if your child likes aeroplanes, for example, or if your child likes to learn about space or anything like that, you may want them to start by reading that kind of book. Or if they like cooking, or, whatever it is they like, something that would make them look forward to actually picking up that book to read. So get them to read a book that they actually find interesting as a starting point. And as they progress, we then get them to read more books with more complex vocabulary and sentence construction, such as the classics, the modern classics, and so on. Number 7, yes, that's where I am. A good thing which we've done really well these holidays as a family is you could set up a family book club. Now, it could work, book clubs work in different ways. You could either read a book together as a family and discuss maybe every evening over dinner, or have a set family time where you sit down and talk about the book you've read. Or you could take one book each. What we did these holidays is I had lots of books that I wanted my children to read, and I knew that they wouldn't have enough time to actually read all the books. So we all had one book to read. And in the evening, every evening, we had to read one chapter per day. And we sat down together and each person shared briefly what they had read. That way, we ended up reading 5 books each, because we went through each of the books together, and whoever wanted to repeat or to read a certain book that someone had read that they found interesting was, obviously could do that as well. So that is a very good thing to do. Getting to read as a family really encourages children to read, especially if your child at the minute is not very keen on reading. So that's number 7. Number 8, you could set up a reading incentive as well. I did that with my children. I said, okay, we do this reading as a family, but if you read any other book, you will get £5. Okay, so depending on the age of a child, £5 could be much or small. So just work it out based on your child's age. So I encourage them to read. Anybody who reads an extra book apart from what we're reading together gets an incentive. If they're younger children, it could be a treat. It could be maybe time out with mommy on a one-to-one, just something that your child will really appreciate, or maybe extra time, maybe watching their favorite show, or maybe time playing their video game, extra time playing their video game, or that kind of thing that will really motivate a child to want to go out of their way and do something that they may not necessarily find interesting, which is reading. Finally, set reading challenges to motivate your child. Children love challenges. Okay, so when we set challenges, maybe as a family, say, if you read one book a week, the person that reads one book a week gets this. You can see the children all, wanting to really ensure that they actually read one book a week. So you could set up challenges to help your child. And I would encourage parents, it's really important to start early. Start early from the time your child is 6 months, and they can start to be aware of things around them. Just open up the picture books, just point to the pictures, show them pictures. As they start to see that book being opened, they start to get interested in books, and you see toddlers crawling and just turning pages of books, and that is really, really interesting. Clinton says, what will you do if you want to orient your child in a certain field of study when they are older? Is it by finding a book or an activity in relation with the field in question? That is very true. Clinton, you could get them to, read books about, that are related to that field. You could get them to watch documentaries or movies. You could take them to museums. You could buy them toys that are to do with that field. You could talk about it a lot at home with excitement. There is so much that we can do to encourage our children to be interested in different things. And if you can actually see that your child is interested, like my sister's son showed some interest in aeroplanes, and we were talking about how she could help develop that interest, take them to the airport to watch planes take off and land, buy model planes at home, read books about aeroplanes, about how aeroplanes were developed, how they've changed and improved over time. There is so much we can do to help our children develop an interest in one thing or the other. So I hope your question has been answered, Clinton. If you just show me a thumbs up, I'll know your question has been answered. So if there are any other questions, please do type them, or questions or contributions, or what has worked for you. We are all learning here. What has worked for you, just share with other parents, and I will appreciate that. So I was saying before that start early. Habits, it's easier to develop habits in children during the formative years up to age 8. Children, we can impart a lot, we can instill a lot in our children before they actually form their mindset and their personality, so start early, turn off the TVs and the phones, and let's make that reading time a really important and valuable time. And you're going to see your child's reading improve. You're going to see them improve also in their studies. Especially as I mentioned at the start, comprehension skills are very, very crucial Children who struggle with comprehension hardly get past an A in exams because there's comprehension all across the board. So you take a history paper, there's a text for you to read and understand. You take a science, a biology, a chemistry, a physics paper, exam paper, there is text for you to understand. Even if there is no text, it might just be a question which a child might not understand. To be honest with you, I've taught children who struggle with reading even as in year 11, which is 15, 16-year-olds. So it doesn't come naturally. Don't leave it to the school to, help your child. Obviously, the schools are doing their best, but you need to step in, especially if you start to see in your child's signs of, learning difficulties. You need to intervene there and ensure that you start really early to support your child's reading skills. I'm going to be talking also about how to actually make the most of reading, because it's not just about sitting down to read. A lot of children sit down and read, but they still struggle with comprehension. So in one of the next sessions, I will be talking about when you read with your child, what is it you're actually aiming for? What sort of books should your child be reading to actually help them move from the basic reading level to a top or a higher level of reading that will help them develop strong comprehension skills. So if there are no questions today, I will say thank you for joining. And to all parents whose children wrote GCSE exams, I want to congratulate all the children who did really well. In fact, the children in my community that I've been working with did really well. And please tune in next week. I will be interviewing some teenagers from different schools and they'll be sharing with us strategies for success. So I would like you to invite your teenagers to watch. It's always good to hear from young people. They pick it up that way. Okay then, so thank you very much for joining, and until next week, have a wonderful night. Eunice says thank you, useful tips. Thanks, Eunice, for joining in out of your hectic schedule in America. I do appreciate that. Okay then, if you enjoyed the video, you think it's going to help one parent or the other, please feel free to share. I know all parents with young children need this information, so please feel free to share. If you've not liked our Facebook page, Star Richards Community Initiative, please feel free to like that page as well, so that when I come up, I come online, you can actually see the notification. Okay then. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye-bye.